Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Rizal Nur Rasyiid, and now I'm going to tell you about my answer to the natural disaster questions. And now let's begin. Millions of individuals are agree to the natural disaster is the worst thing that are caused by the nature itself. Natural disaster also certainly are not fun things, but are very terrible things that always lurk and be able to attack at any time. Natural disaster also have a big role in destroying the nature, ecosystem, and environment. Natural disaster also produce various of awful things such as the large scale of destruction, the geological location changing, the emergence of various disease, plus the worst is the mass of death. So, as we know, every country in the world is more or less than one case is ever been hit by the natural disaster. But a country that often being hit by a natural disaster, it is China. Based on the data, China is the first rank with a various disaster such as flood, earthquake, and then a storm, and many more. China has around 22 cases of natural disaster, or maybe more. Newly, the world was being shaken by the existence of COVID-19, and which was run out from one China. Therefore, this is why China could be crowned as the number one of the country that often being hit by the natural disaster. Opposite with that, there are country that rarely being hit by the disaster. It's called Norway. The country that famous with the treasury of the petroleum, natural gas, and mineral is the country that almost didn't have a natural disaster hit it. Moreover, in the COVID-19 case, they just less than 200 people die, and 7,000 people being a positive state. And then this is obviously unlike as Indonesia, because where the victims has more than 600 people die, and more than 8,000 of people have been conflicted by the COVID-19 itself. In Indonesia also, there are many of natural disasters that common in happen. The first is earthquake. The history record the earthquake in Aceh on 26 December 2004 is the largest and the worst earthquake that result 100 or even 1,000 victims, and known as the memorable terrible earthquake ever. Next is flood. This natural disaster often occur in Indonesia, especially in the capital area DKI Jakarta. Poor drainage system, high level of rainfall, and lack of awareness from the local residents are the main causes of the flooding itself. The last is tsunami. This often happen in Indonesia, and the most devastating tsunami occurred in Aceh also in 2004, and causes a lot of that. Furthermore, other disasters such as volcanic eruptions, tropical storms, landslides, drought, and forest fires also often arise in Indonesia. In my opinion, 2012 film is the best nature disaster film that ever made. This film was written by the a famous film writer named Jackson Curtis. And these films tell the story about the family that's struggling survive from the terrible catastrophe that struck and wipe out the most of life on Earth. And the most memorable part, according to me, is when the radio announcer kept broadcasting his radio and keep reporting in detail what was happening until he died. However, natural disaster it's not only have negative impact but also have positive impact. It can be proven by the people from Aceh nowadays. Nowadays, they become one of the one region in Indonesia as a city of as a city with a majority of faithful residents. More, all of the people in the world are being put in lockdown, and people are forbidden to go out from their house. As the result, the level of the pollution that exists throughout all the world is drastically reduced, and in adding up, it's supported by the research result, which state nowadays ozone layer start to repair itself. That's all about my answer, and I'm sorry for the likeness, and I close with wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.